President Biden's long-shot primary challenger, Dean Phillips, doubles down on his push to win the 2024 nomination, saying the polls are spelling doom and gloom for Biden, posting this: as a member of House Democratic leadership, I supported and promoted the Biden agenda. I campaigned for him, voted for him, and respect him. But how can anyone read this and conclude he's positioned to defeat Donald Trump? It's delusional. His words, not mine. Our panel: James Freeman, assistant editor at the Wall Street Journal editorial page, also a Fox News contributor, and the co-founder of Third Way, Matt Bennett. He's a former Clinton White House deputy special assistant. It's great to have you both. Just want to read the quote from Politico that was the big political story of the weekend. I think it's fair to say. He said, Biden's recent slide and his political predicament some 11 months before Election Day represent a confluence of slippage with reliable Democratic constituencies like young voters, the outbreak of war in the Middle East, and the rise of independent and third-party candidates who could siphon votes from both Biden and Trump. And the Fox News poll, the most recent one, showing Biden's approval at 40%. It just hovers down in those low 40s, but 40 is pretty low, Matt. And I think that what I would love to know is if are we looking at this and saying, wow, Biden seems to have a lot of trouble, but when you see it from the White House's point of view, or the campaigns are like, everything's fine. Even Jim Messina's like, this time next year, everything will be okay?
Well, look, I think they're very concerned, and they should be, and you should always run as if you're behind. But I think it's important to point out a few things. First of all, if somebody's delusional here, it's Dean Phillips. He's talking about polling for an election that's a year away, and that is very close. And his own election is 2.5 months away, and he's losing by 60 points, 60 points, to someone who is not on the New Hampshire ballot. Joe Biden will not appear on that ballot. So a write-in candidate's going to annihilate him in New Hampshire, and he's talking about a poll that's a year from now. So I'm not taking Dean Phillips' advice on how to think about polling. What I do think is very important to point out, though, is that the polling now reflects how people are feeling about the president right now. It's a referendum on Joe Biden. The difference next year is it's going to be a choice between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And after the Biden team and all Democrats remind America about Trump's 91 felony, 91 counts of felony crime, that he was a chaotic and horrible president, I think it's going to be clear to Americans that they have to stick with Biden, and I think they will.
James, in the Wall Street Journal yesterday, or Saturday, Jerry Seib had a long piece about Donald Trump. If he were the nominee, any Republican would have an electoral college advantage over Joe Biden. And that isn't going to change between now and then. While the polling might, or people's feelings about the economy might, that won't change. And so can Republicans figure out a way to make this a one-term president?
Yeah, and I think they may not have to do the job. I know Dean Phillips is a long shot right now. He's got 2 months to make his case to the people of New Hampshire. As we mentioned, Joe Biden will not be on the ballot. He will rely on write-in votes because he wanted to muscle South Carolina into the first slot on the primary calendar. This leaves an opening for Dean Phillips. I think you've got a lot of Democratic voters who want to go in a different direction. They'd prefer someone in their 50s versus their 80s. I think they're going to find in him, while not as well known as some of the governors and senators, a pretty formidable, pretty capable person to make the case that they want made.
If I could get 30 seconds from both of you on this second topic, which is that I mentioned in the A block, there's this story over the weekend that there's division within the Biden administration, even within the White House, about the president's strong stand for Israel. Here's from the Washington Post. The Israel-Gaza war has roiled the administration more than any other issue in Biden's first 3 years in office, according to numerous aides and allies inside and outside the White House, as staffers agonize over their positions on highly emotional issues. That's not going to go away for a while. And if I could get 30 seconds from you both, starting with you, Matt, on how you think this turns out. I mean, what does this look like a week or two from now?
I think it entirely depends on what happens in the course of the war. I mean, we're in the midst of a ceasefire that the president helped to negotiate. That ceasefire could be extended, according to the Prime Minister of Israel and Hamas. And if that happens, and if we see some progress in the release of hostages, I think you're going to see a fundamentally different political position relatively soon. Moreover, the election's very far from now, and Americans are going to be focused on other things, I think, by next November.
James.
Yeah, I think as Israel reasonably acts to destroy Hamas, There are civilian casualties. It's natural that people would be concerned about those. But I think you also have here the White House and Biden's decision to ally with the progressive left, which is very anti-Israel in many cases, doesn't like American tradition that much either. So this is, I think, the price you pay for building that political coalition that includes the extreme left.
So much to talk about as we get, I think we're 50 or 49 or 50 days from the first voting in Iowa in the GOP primary. Thanks to you both. Have a great day.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.